do is help people by teaching the principles. And essentially what that means is helping people to understand what their mind's doing, what their mind is capable of doing, the role it plays in their life, and what, if anything, they have to do with it. And what we found is that the more people understand that, the more freedom of mind they get, the more clarity of mind they get, the more well-being in mind they get, and the less distress and suffering they get, and whatever distress and suffering they do get doesn't tend to weigh on them as much. The difference between the 3 principles and anything else I've come across is that the 3 principles is an attempt to understand the building blocks of the human experience. Understanding the building blocks of the human experience frees people from their mental suffering because they realize that it's not as bad or as serious or as real as they thought it was, and opens up the door to a wider potential of experience, including a less conditional well-being and higher levels of experience of fulfillment. Our experience of life is limited by our understanding of how it's created. And if we don't understand how it's created, we're kind of the victim of whatever our minds create, as opposed to having enough understanding to see it for what it is and to see the potential beyond every specific experience. So the idea of the principles is to help people understand how the experience of life is being formulated and what it's formulated from. Everything else I've come across hasn't really been an attempt to understand the nature of human experience. It's been an attempt to help improve people's human experience, kind of an intervention. So the therapeutic moment is, here's something you can do that help you feel better. Be mindful, or calm down, or think of this, don't think of that. And the essential idea is kind of like a surgery or a fitness program is, here's what you need to do to get the experience you want. And so it's a helping someone. The idea of the principles is creating expertise within the person. You don't need to learn to do anything. All you lack is understanding. I like to call it an enlightenment model. That the therapy moment is a moment of insight where the person is more enlightened about the nature of the mind than they were previously, and that's a therapeutic moment. The concepts don't mean anything, the ideas don't mean anything. It's an increase in understanding, and through that understanding, a freedom from the erroneous ideas you had previously. In a way, the reason we suffer the way we do is we suffer the limitations and pain of our own bad ideas. But because those bad ideas look like a reality to the thinker, until they're replaced by an insight into something more fundamentally descriptive of the way things work, I suppose the way we think they work, you're forced to suffer it. So the difference between the principles is the idea is understanding. Everything else I've come across, the idea is improvement. The client doesn't become an expert. They're helped by whatever techniques or methods are help. A successful goal is a client feeling better. In the principles, a successful goal, in my mind, other people might disagree, I know I touched the mic, is the client understanding better. The symptom of better understanding is more freedom of mind, less suffering, and more well-being. So we've had to change our model, a therapeutic model, from wanting to help the client to realizing that the client gets all the help they need just through understanding. So if we concentrate on the understanding, the rest will take care of itself. So mind, consciousness, and thought, I can't do it. I can't do it. Can't do it. So mind, consciousness, and thought is a way of gaining understanding of what's happening behind the scenes of our experience. So mind is a way of pointing to a less than obvious fact that there's some energetic animating force behind life as we know it. So in terms of the world of biology, there's talk about life force. In physics, there's the energy before form, and there's many different ways of talking about it. The idea of mind, consciousness, and thought is to realize the formless nature of that fundamental reality. And the idea of consciousness is to help us understand that we experience the form as a reality, or we experience it all as a reality. The consciousness is the point of the fact of experience, and thought points to the fact that we experience both the nature of the essence but the form in which it appears. So the principles helps us to understand the link between what's behind life and our moment-to-moment life experience, and the fact that we experience life in the form in which we do, in the reality in which we do, but that there's a more fundamental reality that's less obvious behind it. And the principles is an attempt to look in that direction and understand the fundamental essence of that reality that precedes and generates the reality that we live in.